The rooftop pool, he swore, was under renovation. The alert slid onto our shared calendar at 6:43 p.m., small as a lie that learned manners. Investor dinner, club late. It sat in the square like a card placed face down and dared me to guess. 2 minutes later, Adrian texted, "Don't wait up. Might go late. Wish me luck, Red." He always reached for the heart when the rest of the sentence wanted to be witnessed by someone who wasn't me. I told the pan of garlic to behave and shut off the flame. Our apartment performed the curated quiet of expensive buildings, the kind that masks every decision as taste. I cracked the window. The city exhaled wet heat and laughter, that summertime chorus of strangers who haven't been told, yet that night costs money. The calendar square pulsed once on my phone and went still. I moved it to tomorrow by muscle memory, the way you postpone worry through the cleverness of your thumb. At 7:19, my phone shook with a number I didn't recognize and a message written like it had a right to be brief. "If he's at dinner, dinner has moved to the pool that's under renovation. Staff gate on 32. Bring the face you use when you're done being polite." It was signed with a single letter, the sort people pick when their name already owes too many rooms rent. R. I knew one R who had every reason to hate a promise with good lighting. Raphael bartended on the club's 20th floor and had seen more men practice virtue for the first half of a drink than I'd seen spotlights do their job. He and Adrian had known each other in that way city people collect each other, nods through glass, favors traded for introductions that didn't need names. We had kissed once in a stairwell at a book launch when the AC had quit and the room needed an excuse. His mouth had tasted like mint, and a dare I didn't let myself accept. "Why tell me?" I typed. "Because the elevator won't," he wrote. "Because you like facts. Because he left the lifeguard chair like it was waiting for an audience." The rooftop pool of the wisteria had been under renovation all spring, according to the sign at street level and the gossip at the bar. The staff gate on 32 opened with the right pressure, as all dishonest doors do. A corridor of glass-walled equipment rooms sighed into the kind of humid air that pretends it's doing you a favor. Beyond it, the pool stretched black as a controlled element. Lights off except for the line of candles someone had placed along the coping like a prayer they didn't want to claim. I stopped in the shadow of a potted palm and let my eyes adjust to expensive discretion. Adrian stood near the deep end with his jacket off, sleeves rolled, profile rehearsed. The man he was with leaned against the stainless ladder with a drink in his hand, and the kind of posture you buy after a sale. His name was Miles Voss, an investor who smiled through accelerators and taught people how to pronounce the word disruption as if it belonged to them. The pool light that shouldn't have been on lit his jaw like a brief that wouldn't stop speaking. Adrian touched the rim of his glass to Miles's and made that low laugh he saves for moments he wants to look like accidents. Miles's hand drifted from the ladder to Adrian's wrist and hovered there, a gesture smaller than proof, loud enough to make the pool think about mirrors. I could have left. Instead, I moved closer because surprise has a half-life and I didn't want to waste it. "Nice of them to fix the pool," I said, and my voice sounded steadier than the rest of me. Adrian turned. For one beat, honesty went across his face like a wave, then he got control. "Evan," he said, "how did you?" "R says hello," I said, and let the letter be enough. Miles didn't startle. He extended a hand with that soft aggression of men who think opinions count as philanthropy. "Miles," he said, "you must be the lighting designer. I've seen your name on our decks." "I'm the man who pays for bulbs and arguments," I said. "You're the man who thinks rooms are obedient." He smiled like he had been offered a dessert menu. "Rooms want to be fed," he said. He lifted his glass and eyed the candlelight through it. Some nights just require better light. Adrian cut his eyes at me with an apology he hadn't had time to write. We were talking about the rollout, he said. He wanted to see the space. Under renovation, I said. The sign downstairs was old, Miles said, which is a sentence you can use to justify almost anything. From the west end of the deck, a shoulder came out of the shadows like a friend pretending not to be one. Raphael leaned against a closed lounger with his weight in one hip, and that small crooked grin he uses on himself when he knows he's about to be necessary. He didn't come closer. He didn't speak. He nodded once to me and let me decide whether to nod back. The city was taking its time to thicken. The candles threw small bravado onto water that didn't care. Adrian used my name again, the way he uses it when he wants to remind us both that if he says it in the right shape we might get to keep it. "Can we," he said, and then to Miles, "give me a minute." Miles lifted his palms as if surrender counted as generosity. "Take two," he said, and did a slow turn back to the glass horizon, a man taking inventory of a city while he prepared to forgive it. We stepped to the low wall by the planters. Adrian's wrist still carried the ghost of the touch. I could see the part of him that had wanted to be chosen by a view. He didn't reach for me. That was the courtesy he was good at and the lie I didn't want tonight. I was going to text you when the thing he wanted turned into the goodbye he deserved, he said. "Before or after you gave him the moon back?" I asked. He blinked like I'd flicked salt into his eye. "He's tired of pretending his money can't pick his company," he said. "I like to think I'm immune to money. I'm not immune to being looked at as if the way I say we could be a verb someone else gets to use." "You wanted to be interesting," I said. "You wanted a room to write your name without asking me for spell check." He took a breath that made his chest lift and then stay there. "I wanted to be caught," he said. "Not punished. Caught. It's the same grammar, different lungs." The candlelight gave my options the kind of sincerity they didn't deserve. "Do you want him to kiss you?" "I want something here that doesn't make the elevator sick," he said, and for once I believed him. Behind us, someone lit another trio of candles, and the smell of cheap vanilla tried to make itself important. Raphael moved along the far rail and pretended to study the rain radar. He glanced over once and let his eyes rest on me half a second longer than would be professional. It felt like being asked if I wanted the air back. Miles called across the water, conversational, the way men who own the next hour do. "You know what I love about rooms like this? They punish bad posture. You can tell who doesn't belong by how much they apologize." "Then stop apologizing," I said, not bothering to turn. He laughed with his mouth closed. "You two should have your talk," he said. "I can practice patience. It'll be good for the shareholder letter." Adrian said my name again, syllables human-sized. He reached for my jaw and stopped just short, like he knew this part belonged to me. I closed the distance and kissed him before the night could think too hard about it. His mouth tasted like the clean part of gin and ambition that wasn't exhausted yet. He made the sound he makes when he remembers there are reasons he lives in a body. My thumb found the soft hinge at his neck, and he leaned into it, hungry, not greedy. My pulse climbed and pretended to be wise. "We broke because heat becomes theater if you let it." He set his forehead against mine the way men do when the answer they had come to invent suddenly looks like work. "I didn't kiss him," he said. "Not yet." "Yet is an expensive word," I said. "You keep buying it on credit." He nodded, and that complicity we're good at made an appearance. Then he squared his shoulders toward the deep end where Miles had made himself into a lit silhouette. Raphael stepped into our shadow before we moved. He looked not at Adrian but at me. "There's a service elevator on the north side if you want the stairs to talk to you," he said. "You can take him down and decide if air counts as a reason." His voice had the kind of tact you wish your friends would learn before they need it. Adrian said, "Thank you," and I understood he meant it. Miles pushed off from the ladder and sauntered toward us, a man secure in his belief that outcome follows desire the way punctuation follows a sentence. He put his glass on the coping like a sudden coin. "Shall we be adults about this?" he asked. "There's business upstairs that will get done with or without romance. You've got a boyfriend who knows where the exits are. I've got a timeline and a very persuasive balcony. Nobody has to get dramatic to qualify for dessert." "Your metaphors are rich and undercooked," I said. "Find a new oven." He looked at me in a way that suggested I could become a useful story if I were willing to be misspelled. Then he looked at Adrian and said, almost kindly, "You have such a good mouth for saying words that make other people feel relevant. Don't waste it telling the wrong version of tonight." He retrieved his glass and walked back to his candles, taking his gravity with him. Adrian grabbed my hand as if the muscle had sent the invite. "Let's go," he said, and for once the verb was not confused. We took the north elevator Raphael had promised. The doors were smooth and uninterested in our drama. In the mirror we were two men making a silhouette out of stubbornness. At street level the night stood up straighter. Raphael came out the service corridor behind us with his hands in his pockets like he'd taught them not to interfere. He didn't ask if we were okay. He didn't touch me. He leaned against the wall and watched our mouths find the work. Adrian moved his hand to my chest, fingers curved like punctuation you can breathe around. "Why did you text me?" I asked Raphael without taking my eyes off the man whose heartbeat I knew better than my own. "Because I've watched him convince rooms to call him inevitable," he said. "And I wanted you to have the part where you choose him on purpose." Adrian looked at Raphael and then at me. "Did you kiss him?" he asked, not accusatory, simply living. "In a stairwell 100 years ago," I said. "We decided the dare could wait." Raphael smiled with one side of his mouth in a way that would have ruined me at 25 and only bruised me now. "It can wait longer," he said. "I am not here for men who need alibis to make their mouths honest." He nodded once, turned, and vanished into the glow of a cigarette that didn't need him to finish it. Adrian and I walked the 6 blocks home without saying anything performative. The city was humid with ambition. Outside our building, he stopped under a streetlight that had been getting away with being romantic since the Nixon administration, and kissed me again like the only audience was the part of me that believes in names. In the apartment, the garlic had surrendered to wallpaper. I threw away the pan and rehydrated a carton of miso while we stood shoulder to shoulder and pretended to be solved. He told me Miles had been building a donation out of compliments for weeks, and he had been helping because the part of him that liked being chosen had not learned how to hire better help. I told him Raphael had texted because he prefers oxygen to salvage. We didn't translate anything. The room breathed with us. In bed, we left an inch of cool air the way you leave space at a museum so that someone else's rotation can be seen. Sometime in the quiet, he moved his hand to my ribs and let his palm feel the small rise that says living is underway. In the dark, he said, "Am I just a man who practices wanting until rooms give in?" And I said, "You're a man who built a career on talking strangers into yes, and is learning to save the best version of that for home." Morning arrived without asking anyone to be noble. The calendar square for the day had the decency to be empty. Adrian tied a tie over the throat that had wanted a different hand and chose my mouth instead. He said my name like it was the address he kept forgetting to verify. I set his back to him like a location that didn't need a map. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message from a number saved under a single letter. Next time you need a balcony, choose the one that looks out on the street you pay rent on. I wrote back, "You're proud of your advice." R replied, "I'm proud of your arrival." No punctuation. It felt right. Around noon, a blog posted a blurry photo of Miles on a roof, captioned with a line about patron saints and summer cocktails. I scrolled past it and didn't save it. At 2 p.m., Adrian sent me a photo of our kitchen table with the plant we keep forgetfully alive squinting into the light. He wrote, "Room exists." I believed him because the glass had my fingerprints on it, and because somewhere a bartender who likes air more than narrative was teaching a new server how to light candles without setting money on fire. That night we ate together without pretending food was metaphor. When he kissed me in the doorway to the bedroom, it was not an apology or a performance. It was heat and breath and the brief, accurate sense that cities reward the men who learn to stop writing captions for evenings that don't require them. I went asleep with his hand on my wrist and my mouth confident enough, for once, to belong to the life we were building. The calendar stayed quiet. The pool upstairs went back to renovation. And if a door waited somewhere with a latch that preferred sin to staging, I felt it blink and look away.